Successful people are not more motivated than you. They were not handed some endless supply of energy you were born without. They figured out one thing early that most people never do. Waiting to feel motivated is the exact thing keeping you stuck. Motivation feels like the answer, but for most people it is the trap. Here is the problem with motivation. It is a feeling, and feelings come and go on their own schedule. You have felt it before, that sudden burst where you finally want to do the work, and you have felt it vanish by the next morning for no clear reason. We are taught to get motivated first, and then take action. Feel the drive, then start the workout, the business, the chapter. So you sit and wait for the feeling to arrive, you watch the video, you read the quote, you listen to the speech. You wait for a switch to flip somewhere inside you, and most days it just does not flip. So nothing happens, and you quietly decide the problem is that you are lazy. The problem is not that you are lazy. The problem is the order you were taught to do things in. Think about the last big plan you made. Maybe you decided this was the year you finally get in shape. You bought the membership, picked the plan, and felt amazing for about a week. Then one cold morning, the feeling was gone, and the membership became a monthly donation. That is not a character flaw. It is what happens when a plan is built on a feeling. It helps to know why so many of us ended up waiting in the first place. There is an entire industry built on selling you motivation. Loud videos, posters, and speeches, all promising to light a fire inside you. And for a few hours, it works. You feel unstoppable. Then the feeling fades, because feelings always fade, and you come back for more. The fire was never the point, and it was never going to last. The other half of the trap is willpower. You have probably heard that willpower works like a fuel tank. You start the day full, every hard choice burns a little, and by night, you are empty. This idea has a name in psychology, ego depletion. It came from a famous study in 1998 by a researcher named Roy Baumeister. He sat people in a room with a plate of fresh warm cookies and a bowl of radishes. Some people were allowed the cookies, others had to resist and eat only the radishes. Then everyone was handed an impossible puzzle that could not actually be solved. The people who had to resist the cookies gave up on the puzzle much faster. The conclusion was that resisting the cookies had drained their willpower. For years, this was one of the most cited ideas in all of psychology. Then other scientists tried to repeat the experiment. In 2016, around 24 labs ran the same test on over 2,000 people. They found basically no effect at all. A second huge effort, with 36 labs and over 3,000 people, found the same nothing. The neat fuel tank story did not hold up, and you can catch it failing in your own evening. You eat well all day, then raid the fridge at 11 at night. The old story says your willpower tank simply ran dry by bedtime, but notice you never run out of energy to scroll your phone. The tank is suspiciously full for the things you actually want to do. And here is the strange part that did hold up in the research. People who believe willpower is limited start acting like it is limited. People who do not believe that tend to keep going just fine. So the tank may be mostly in your head, which means the story you tell yourself about running out is doing real damage. So if waiting for motivation fails and willpower is shakier than we thought, what actually works? You flip the order completely. Action comes first and motivation follows. This is not just a slogan. It is the basis of a real treatment called behavioral activation. A psychologist named Peter Lewinson developed it back in the 1970s. It is still a frontline treatment for depression today, and the idea behind it is brutally simple. When someone feels too flat to do anything, you do not wait for them to feel better first. You have them take a small action anyway, with no motivation at all. And the motivation tends to show up after the action, not before it. You do not need to be depressed for this to apply to you. Every boring chore in your life already works this way. Nobody ever feels like doing the dishes. You just stand up and start, and halfway through you barely notice you are doing it. You can feel the same thing at the gym if you look closely. The hardest part is the parking lot, not the workout. Once you are actually lifting, you are fine, and sometimes you do not want to stop. The dread lives before the start, not during the work itself. There is even a quirk of the mind that quietly helps you here. Once you start a task, your brain hates leaving it unfinished. Researchers have studied this pull to go back and finish what you began. Starting creates a small tension that only eases when you continue. So the start is not just the hardest part. It is almost the whole game. Begin badly, begin tired, begin with no energy, but begin. If starting is everything, then your real job is to make starting impossible to avoid. And the way you do that is by making the first step tiny. Embarrassingly, almost insultingly tiny. Writers and coaches often call this the 2-minute rule. Instead of write the book, the task becomes write one sentence. Instead of work out for an hour, the task becomes put on your shoes. Instead of read 30 pages, the task becomes read a single page. A behavior scientist at Stanford named B.J. Fogg built an entire method on this. He found that people change when a behavior is easy, not when they are fired up. Motivation is unreliable, so you simply stop depending on it. You shrink the task until it is so small that willpower is not even required. You can always do 1 push-up, You can always write one line, and here is the trick hidden inside the tiny start. One push-up usually turns into 10 because you already got down on the floor. One sentence quietly turns into a paragraph. The tiny start is really just a door, and most days you walk through it. But even on your worst day, you still did the one push-up and the habit survives. A streak you never break is worth more than a burst you cannot repeat. There is one more reason that plans beat feelings. Most people decide what they want, but never decide when and where they will do it. I will exercise more is a wish, nothing else. It has no time, no place, and no trigger, so it sits and waits for a feeling. Psychologists found a simple fix for this that works shockingly well. They call it an implementation intention, but it is really just an if-then plan. You decide in advance, when this happens, I will do that. When I finish breakfast, I will put on my running shoes. When I sit down at my desk at 9, I will write one sentence. A researcher named Peter Gallwitzer tested this idea many times. In one study, students were asked to hand in a report over the holidays. The ones who only had the goal finished about a third of the time. The ones who wrote down exactly when and where they would do it finished about 70% of the time. Same students, same task, just a plan tied to a specific moment. Across dozens of studies, this small trick has a large and reliable effect. You are not leaning on willpower, you are handing the decision to your calendar. And that points at what discipline really is. People love to say you just need more discipline, but discipline is not gritting your teeth harder every single morning. Discipline is mostly removing the moment where you get to choose. If you decide fresh each day whether to run, you will lose on the cold days. If running at 7 is simply what happens, there is no fight to lose. Every decision you delete is a decision that motivation can no longer ruin. Now for the most powerful lever of all, and the one most people ignore, your environment. You like to think your choices come from deep inside you. In reality, most of them come from whatever is around you. We are lazy by design, and we take the easiest path right in front of us. So the move is to make good choices easy and bad choices annoying. This is called choice architecture, and the man behind it won a Nobel Prize. His name is Richard Thaler, and one example shows just how strong it is. Look at organ donation rates across Europe. In some countries, you have to tick a box to opt in, and only a small share of people do. In others, you are signed up by default and have to tick a box to opt out. The opt-in countries sit down around 4 to 27%. The opt-out countries sit up around 80 to 99%. Same people, same kindness, completely different default. The box did the work, not the willpower. You can do the exact same thing to your own life. Google wanted its staff to eat better without nagging anyone. They put healthy food at eye level in clear glass jars. Then they hid the snacks in solid bins lower down, where you had to dig for them. Healthy eating went up by about a third with no speeches and no motivation. Your phone is the same idea, just turned against you. The bad habit takes 0 effort and a single tap. You can flip that same trick around and aim it at the life you actually want. Want to read more? Leave the book on your pillow and the phone in another room. Want to eat better? Keep the fruit on the counter and the cookies out of the house. Want to scroll less? Log out, delete the app, and charge the phone outside the bedroom. You are adding friction to the bad and removing friction from the good. Every step you remove is one less moment where you need to feel motivated. There is one last shift that makes all of this stick. Stop trying to feel motivated and start acting like a certain kind of person. Do not aim to feel like running. Aim to become someone who runs. Each tiny action is a small vote for who you are turning into. Miss one day and nothing breaks. Miss many days and you slowly become the person who quit. The goal is to cast enough small votes that the new identity becomes obvious. It also helps to win something small early in the day. When the first thing you do is finished and done, the next thing feels lighter. An unmade bed and a full sink quietly tell you the day is already a mess. A made bed and a clean counter quietly tell you that you follow through. None of these wins are big, and that is exactly why they work. Big goals are won in the boring middle, on the days nobody is watching. Now you might be thinking that some days you genuinely cannot start at all. On those days, you make the step even smaller until it stops feeling like a wall. Cannot face the gym? Then just put on the shoes and stand by the door. Cannot write the essay? Then open the document and type your name. The job of the tiny step is to get your body moving before your mind can argue. Your mind will always find a reason to wait, so you stop asking it for permission. You will still have days where you do almost nothing, and that is fine. The point is not to be perfect. It is to make quitting harder than continuing. Motivation still has a place. It just is not the thing that starts the engine. It is what shows up to keep you company once the work is already moving. Put all of this together and you get something far better than motivation. You get a system. A system is just a set of defaults that runs whether you feel like it or not. Motivated people are not stronger. They have simply stopped relying on motivation. They start tiny, so the first step is always easy. They plan the when and the where, so there is no decision to make in the moment. They shape the room, so the easy path is also the good one. On their best days, the system carries them a long way. On their worst days, the system still drags them across the line. None of this is dramatic, and that is exactly the point. Motivation is loud, and systems are quiet. The loud thing feels powerful and changes nothing. The quiet thing feels boring and slowly changes your whole life. And the strangest part is what happens once you stop waiting. After you act without motivation for long enough, the motivation finally shows up. It was always going to arrive late. It was never going to be the thing that got you started. So stop waiting to feel ready. Ready is a feeling, and feelings are slow and unreliable. Pick the smallest possible first step and do it today. Bored and tired and unmotivated, the motivation will catch up once you are already moving. If this made the trap a little clearer, you can like and subscribe. It takes about 2 seconds, which is comfortably under the 2-minute rule.